Welcome to Florida Focus, a college football podcast. We have a Seminole and two Gators together, trying to put aside the differences and bring you the fantastic world of college football. Thank you for joining us on this ride of hype, hope, and hilarity. My name's Brandon. I am joined by Chris and a special guest today. Today we're going to cover the Florida Vanderbilt game. We're going to whip around the state of Florida, preview last week's games, and well, how about we recap last week's games and then preview next week's? How about that?
Yeah.
We'll remind you about our Patreon. We have a new change coming up to our Patreon subscribers. We'll tell you how to get in touch with us, and we'll look ahead to what's going around the state. Today we have a special guest, the man who brought us both together, Jarad. I want to welcome him as a Gator fan. He introduced me and Chris a long time ago, over 10 years now. Jarad, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, I appreciate it, guys. It's a big honor to be here.
Yeah, well, the honors are ours. We have a lot to cover, and we're going to change the format up for the fans. We're going to cover all the schools around the state first, kind of get those behind us so we can move on and go full force into the Gator game. Changing the format this week a little bit since Florida State was off. We'll talk a little bit about how their bye week went. But real quickly, we'll talk about how the schools did. I'll start with
We'll start off with the big one. We'll start off with the big one with Miami going to Virginia, and you saw this coming. I saw this coming. A lot of people saw this coming. Losing to Virginia. This was your typical get hyped up for a rival game, and then the next game you come out flat. Lose to a Virginia team that really played lights out defense for most of the game. Mm-hmm. Miami started off throwing 2 picks with Perry, and Rozier came in and didn't do too much better. And Miami kind of got a taste of their own medicine, really. They could not get going on offense, and they were turning the ball over. And Virginia pulls it out. Miami kind of made it interesting late. But kudos to Virginia beating a top team in Miami who might have kind of been overlooking them, patting themselves on the comeback against Florida State.
Yeah, what really stood out to me was the fact that the Hurricanes just didn't rely on their running backs like they usually do. They just could not get it going. 6 points through 3 quarters, I believe. And I talked to like the 1 or 2 Miami fans I'm friends with, and that was their comment. They said, this is usually the type of game the Hurricanes lose, and they were absolutely right. Going on the road, and the first half of the Florida State game, they got outplayed. It was the second half where they forced 3 turnovers and changed momentum and started to find some weaknesses. So you figure the last 8 quarters, there were only 3 good ones, maybe?
Yeah.
Almost a full game worth of bad play. And, now the season looks very, very different, and the whole state of Florida does too.
Yeah, no joke. It looked like they were kind of just sleepwalking and kind of waiting for what they did last week. We'll get it together. We'll figure it out. Force some turnovers, and that just never happened. And I totally agree. Homer needs to get the ball more. He's a playmaker, whether it's screens or just handing it off to him. Yeah. They didn't really. He had 95 yards, but he could have had more. He could have had more touches. They should have gone to him. They had plenty of time, and yet I think they kind of panicked. I don't know if sticking with Perry would have. I really don't know which one's your better option. What do you guys think about them pulling Perry?
Well, I have just one quick thought, and then I'll throw it to Jarad. But I don't know that you have given Perry a lot of chances to see where he's at. He had his game against UNC. The game before that, I think it was Toledo. He plays a little bit of that one and does okay. But in those games, he's not required to throw, and he's not required to be under pressure situations. Even in Florida State, they were down by 20, but it was the defense got the ball back, and he just had to punch it in the red zone. So he didn't have a lot of real game experience opportunities. We had to drive the ball down. So I feel like you got to get in those situations, and if you lose a game like this, you don't put it on him. What do you think, Jarad?
I definitely understand both sides of it. My thoughts kind of were you kind of knew what you had with Rozier at this point, so I feel like if you're going to continue the rest of the season, you have to at least give yourself a chance to make that change, see what the other guy has to offer. Go ahead, bring him in. If he can make some plays and get you going early, then all right, you ride with a hot hand. I feel like the first part of the season, they kind of knew what they had in Rozier, and they're like, all right, let's make a change. Let's see what we can do here. But Perry was not prepared for that situation. And it was evident in his gameplay. It was evident in the way the game turned out. He hasn't had enough experience. I mean, that's just plain and simple.
Yeah. It's a tough one. I don't know. I don't know if I like going back and forth. I personally would like to just ride him out and see what he can do. You saw that he was able to come back with Florida State, but he wasn't able to come. I don't know. See what he does. But again, their defense, which they heavily rely on, really didn't do much to help them out.
Yep. So Virginia is actually not a terrible team, especially by coastal standards, because it's probably the worst division in all of the Power Five. But this is a good win for them. It makes sense that this is the time of year they capitalize on it. Do you guys know who the head coach of Virginia is, by the way?
Mendenhall?
Yep, that's the one.
Bronco
Mendenhall.
Yeah.
Of the BYU, formerly of BYU. So maybe his first signature win.
Yeah.
He's the Cavs coach.
It's a pretty big one.
Yeah.
Top. I don't know what they were ranked at the time, but a top team. A big name like Miami, yeah,
sure.
Definitely big. And I bet you really liked how they kept showing the Florida State highlights from years ago.
That was going to be my next comment there. No, sorry, Jarad, no Star Trek reference this time, but I did want to reference Virginia and getting the best of Florida State twice in conference play if I could. 1995 is probably the clip they were showing.
Yeah.
Florida State rolls the first 3 seasons in the ACC and doesn't lose a game until very, very close game on the road at Virginia. Last play of the game, right at the goal line, we get stopped and they lose. And I'm not making this up, guys. Virginia decided to throw a parade in honor of that victory. We decided to do it once every, 10 years. So they threw a parade in 2005 when Florida State comes back to Virginia. That's the weekend that we all spent together down in New Orleans area, right? So I'm actually watching that game on the road, and Florida State loses again.
Goodness.
Oh, man.
Parade got
wow.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that a parade was a thing.
They really were happy about that win. That was a staple.
So my question is, and I know this is a big if Virginia somehow, say, wins the ACC and becomes a decent team in the ACC, do they stop having that parade?
No, they do 2 parades.
Oh, they have multiple parades.
Double it up. And they may start one with this one. They in 2028.
Yeah.
They're playing the Canes again.
That's a bit. It's kind of like this past weekend when LSU stormed the field after beating Georgia. I'm like, okay, I get it. They were number 2 in the country, but you're LSU. You're pretty high ranked. You've won some championships before. What are you doing rushing the field? This is kind of ridiculous.
Jarad, I actually quote a couple of things that I've heard you say in the past, and that's the first one is that Spurrier says we shouldn't rush the field, right? We expect to win.
Expect to win.
Act like you've been there.
And the second one is, are the major outlets going to cover this every single time that the SEC finds them when they storm the field? Isn't this old hat by now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Brandon, just a side note, I believe that 95 Virginia victory over Florida State was the first ever ACC loss for Florida State.
It was, yes, sir.
Okay.
I believe Virginia had, was it one of the Barbers? Ronnie Barber, Tiki Barber? Was there a rushing? I think he was there. So it actually wasn't a terrible team, but Florida State was just completely dominating the conference at that point, like 26 wins, 28 wins in a row to start. It was insane.
I get being excited and maybe doing something, but parade a little excessive. But that's coming from a SEC guy who fines people for running on the field.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
All right. Well, we wanted to do something a little different, Chris. Who does Miami have coming up next week?
They have a bye, so
they're off.
They're off. Yeah.
Well, time to lick their wounds and practice up.
Yeah, that's the worst is when you lose before a bye. It's 2 extra weeks to think about it.
Yep. And
especially one that you're supposed to win. To win. Yeah.
Yeah. Doesn't always help that bye week either. Penn State comes up pretty cold and loses to Michigan State. So can change things nationwide. Real quickly, the probably the most interesting game in the state of Florida against an opponent was UCF playing Memphis. So the Knights squeak out a 1-point victory, and a few things stuck out to me. And Jarad, you had sent me some questions kind of during that Saturday when the game was going on, and they were very valid questions. And
Yes, sir.
I'll repeat those, which is, Mackenzie Milton actually had a pretty good game. Why are the Knights struggling? And it looks pretty balanced. And I guess there's a few things you can look at, but the biggest thing that stood out to me were the third downs. UCF went 2 of 12, and Memphis went 7 of 16, and plus Memphis got 3 extra first downs on penalties. So I guess the momentum swings on stuff like that. What I continually see as a pattern in the season, not just UCF but nationwide, is it doesn't matter the number of plays you run. If you're not efficient in doing it, it's just not going to matter. I think even 2 or 3 teams have actually gotten to 100 plays run this year and lost. So in this case, Memphis runs more plays, 81 to 66, and UCF is still victorious. Probably the one that everyone talks about and the play that did swing momentum probably was the 4th and 1, where UCF goes for it on the Memphis 29-yard line, and Memphis stacked the box too much, and it ended up being a 71-yard touchdown run for McGowan. So UCF surprisingly has a pretty good rushing attack. It gets kind of lost with their fast-paced passing, and everything gets set up by the run. But Jarad, I was going to throw a question to you. I think it was an SEC title game, I believe. I know for sure Florida's playing Arkansas, and there was a play, and I believe it was Florida again. They went for it on like a fake punt really deep in their own territory.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, it was a really gutsy call by Urban Meyer. It was, I think, 4th and, I want to say maybe 8 from their own, like 30. I mean, I can fact check all of those things, but it was really deep in our own territory. Florida had led in the game, I think maybe 2 or 3 scores. Arkansas came back, got the lead, so momentum had shifted. Urban Meyer calls a end around to Jamel Cornelius, who takes it, I think, 16, 18 yards for the first. Florida goes down, gets points on the drive, and ultimately wins the game.
Wow. So I think obviously the Urban Meyer call was way bigger than this, but that when UCF went for that 4th down, that was my first thought. I was like, it's not quite that gutsy, but it had a similar type of feel, except in this game UCF was down by 2 scores. If you don't get it, which is a good chance, 4th and 1, you're going to pick that up. Then you're down by 3 scores quick, and then I don't know that they win. So there's your Florida Gator reference there. The other thing is that Memphis only had 150 yards of offense in the second half, and I think like 50 of that was on the last drive that didn't end up scoring anything. So that's the win streak continues for UCF. They win 19 in a row now, and during that streak, they have scored 31 points in every single game, at least.
Oh.
So
what are your thoughts on the end, how Memphis had a chance to potentially set up a field goal, but is that coaching? Is that players? Like, what are y'all thoughts on that? Because I was watching that, I'm like, what are you doing? I mean, I don't know. The quarterback, he scrambled. I don't know. I was just kind of like, is it the quarterback's fault? Is it the receiver's fault? Is it the coach's? I'm not. They still have to make the field goal. I get that. It's not saying they lost because of that, but I was just like, what are you doing?
To me, it was just a Memphis move. I think the pressure of having lost to UCF so many times and being so close just got to him, and they made another mental mistake. What were your thoughts, though, Jarad?
Man, I honestly, even when Memphis jumps out to the early lead, I'm thinking throughout the game, watching the game, the flow of the game, I'm thinking UCF's going to come back and win this. You see Memphis down, and you just see what's on the line. Maybe you're not ready for that stage. Maybe you're not ready for that win. You get hyped. The anxiety starts to kick in. You're like, oh, how are we going to hold this lead? And at this point, Mackenzie Milton's been in that situation. UCF's team is battle tested, and they didn't panic. So they were just more prepared, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. I feel the same way. Like when I saw the score and they came back, I'm like, yeah, that figures. That's kind of what they do.
Yeah.
It's what they do.
But I mean, to be down 30-14 late second quarter, that we talked before about the importance of scoring before halftime. They go right down and kick a field goal, make it 20-17. Those 3 points don't feel like a lot then, but they make a huge difference later on. And of course, you see, and I'll always harp on this, second half points. Memphis scored none. You can't win games that way.
Yep.
Florida State against Miami, no offensive points in the second half. The only touchdown was on a punt return. So that's the way you lose games. You don't constantly put the pressure on, and that's how it ends up. So yeah, I like how
you said it was a Memphis move. I like that a lot. We're gonna coin that one.
Oh, Memphis. The Tigers and the Knights have played, I don't know, almost every year for like the last 15, 16 seasons because they were both in the Conference USA playing each other as well.
All right.
So, to answer your question fully, Norvell, I wouldn't think he would let his coaching go by the wayside in a situation like that, but who knows? I think more the pressure, like Jarad was saying, they just weren't ready for it.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
So, there you go. Next week, UCF travels to East Carolina. They are struggling this year, as we've talked about many times. Somehow, though, they are playing American teams pretty close. They have like 400 yards of offense a game, but that's also against the likes of Houston, Temple, South Florida, Old Dominion, North Carolina State, who they lost to, and North Carolina. So these aren't good teams they're putting up these numbers against.
All right.
UCF is favored by 3 touchdowns, over under 65. That may go over because UCF you can count on 31 points, if not more. So I think the Knights win pretty comfortably. I think it's a lot closer than it should be for about 3 quarters. But this is the middle of a 3-game road stretch for the Knights, and this is game 2. They get like a Saturday off, and then they play a Thursday night game. So it's kind of some weird vibes there. Their schedule was thrown off because they didn't play at North Carolina.
Yeah.
And so that's just kind of messing with their schedules, but I still don't think East Carolina is anywhere close to winning a game like this. So Knights will win next week too.
Okay. All right. So FAU did not play last week. They had a bye. So next week they are playing Marshall at Marshall. It looks like a pretty evenly matched teams here. They're about the same in the statistics. FAU just runs the ball better with Singletary. They both have played about the same competition. They've both played ODU, Middle Tennessee. FAU has played UCF and obviously Oklahoma, but Marshall, they played North Carolina State, who's been pretty decent this year. That'll be a fun one to watch. I think it's going to be a coin flip. You might want to give Florida Atlantic just a slight edge because of the rushing attack and coming off the bye, but it's at Marshall, so it'd be an interesting one for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So just a quick question for Jarad. What do you think of the Lane Kiffen era out at Florida Atlantic, and how do you think his coaching success, interesting is whatever, from like USC and Tennessee have factored into how he's performed in the state of Florida?
I'm a fan, just outright. I am a fan of the Lane Kiffen era. I think he's entertaining. I think he's good for that conference. It's good to have a bigger name down there in maybe a divisional school, directional school, just winning games, making some national relevance. Anytime you can put a Florida school on the map, even if it's UNF, anytime you can put a Florida school on the map, I think it's a good thing. So I love it. The kind of knock on Lane Kiffen has always been his personality. I don't think anyone's ever questioned his ability to coach football. Even at USC, that situation was not good for him. He came in off the Tennessee, riding high. He had a great recruiting class, was getting Tennessee rolling. He took the money. Tennessee was not his destination. That's not where he wanted to be. Going back to SC, you have to take that job. I mean, anyone in their right mind, any coach in America, if USC comes calling, you have to take that job. I mean, it's the premier, at that time, the premier school, just coming off that Pete Carroll era, national titles, national relevance. You have to take that gig. So he takes it. The immaturity caught up with him at that point. You can get away with some of that stuff in Tennessee because you're the only show in town. You can't get away with that stuff in LA, especially if you're not winning games. So, that situation fell out from underneath him. He goes to Alabama, of course, and that was very entertaining. But
yeah,
you can tell he's taking some things away from that. He still has the fun press conferences. He's still taking jabs. He's still, talking a little bit, which is great. But he's toned it down enough, and he's at a place that isn't in the national spotlight every week. But he's gotten them some wins. So I love it.
Yeah, I did not like him at all because of Tennessee. But I'm coming around, and he is the perfect coach for a team like this. And I live not too far from there. I've seen billboards, and it has like Singletary on it, and it said Heisman like paradise. And I
Oh.
really don't know what that means. Like maybe it's a play on a hidden paradise. I'm not sure. But just the fact that there's an FAU billboard.
Yeah.
And I know he's not going to win the Heisman, but just the word like Heisman's out there. You have your star running back out there. That's definitely a result of Kiffen and the way he promotes. And sometimes it's negative, and sometimes it's kind of like, shocks you what he says. But he's getting the word out there, and people are now looking at FAU that would never look at FAU.
Okay. Yeah, I like it. I'm kind of surprised, to Jared's point about him getting his players up and coaching, especially following the success from last year, that they've already dropped a few that you didn't expect this season. You didn't expect UCF Oklahoma, but you certainly didn't expect to lose to Middle Tennessee State. And it's not quite the start they're hoping for. They can still win the conference, which I still think they will, but it just won't be quite as clean this time around.
Yeah.
So, all right, cool. So over in Tampa, which is not South Florida, but is University of South Florida, you have the Gator transfer Cronkite still doing his thing on the rushing attack. Surprisingly, his success was kind of limited to spots. He had one 66-yard touchdown run, which was nice. That kind of got them back into the game early in the third quarter. But other than that, he ended up with 151 yards rushing on 25 carries. So outside of that, the average was kind of low. Tulsa is, again, not a good team. So the fact that USF wins by 1, it's kind of baffling. But, again, we've talked about this. They just play down to their competition. Tulsa was surprisingly good in the turnover margin this time, which is normally not the case for them. That's how they were able to keep it close, plus good defense. It certainly wasn't their Tulsa passing attack, as they only had 79 yards passing the entire game. Mm-hmm. South Florida did some things that they shouldn't have. They missed a point after. They missed a 2-point conversion. They had a fourth down that failed. So they didn't look good, and they had to kick a field goal with 2 seconds left to salvage a win. So that one, out of all the wins, you should be the most concerned about. And if I'm on the coaching staff, I don't know that I celebrate with the team after a win like this. They were actually celebrating in the locker room. So that's you want to turn that around. I understand South Florida's schedule is bad. I understand a win's a win. I know you want to prove to yourself you can come back. But what are your thoughts on this, Jarad? I mean, should you celebrate a win like this?
I think you have to celebrate any win in the hindsight of it. At the moment, I don't think that's a celebration moment. You just won on a field goal from opposing quarterback who went 6 for 21.
Yeah.
So that is a teaching moment. I think anybody who wants to be a competitor, anybody who wants to be a champion, especially any big time football club in America, you're probably not taking that back and being like, oh, we accomplished something here today. You're probably watching the film and thinking, all right, we got work to do.
Yeah. But I can see a school that's not as, but they are ranked though. So maybe you're right. Maybe they shouldn't be as celebratory and kind of just like, whoa, we just dodged a bullet here. They love to keep games close, don't they?
Yes.
That's going to be their. So you call them the cardiac bulls?
Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna throw a dad joke out there. So just brace yourself.
Do it.
The bypass bulls.
Okay.
See the alliteration there?
I love it. We're all about alliteration. Florida focus.
Okay, yes.
Bypass bulls, yeah.
Bypass
all
bulls.
about it.
Can someone trademark that? Does anyone know any connections to people that trademark stuff?
I'm going to defer to Jarad on this one because that's not my expertise.
I'm out of that.
Get on that. Get on that.
Bypass. Okay. Not bad, Chris. I've seen worse.
Yeah, well, you're probably going to hear worse
okay.
from me.
Yeah. So the Bulls will host UConn next week, and UConn is rapidly increasing in their inability to play football. They're just not good. So I think they have one win on the season, and just it's impressive how much the Huskies need to improve. Why they hired Randy Edsel back, I don't know, because it's not working out. But given their track record, they'll only win by 2 or 3. So.
Yep. That's going to be a good game at the end of the season. Them and UCF.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be good.
That's
and
really good.
Cincinnati, still undefeated in the American. Now, they haven't played anybody either. But now South Florida and Cincinnati both play Central Florida in back-to-back weeks, gentlemen.
Oh,
this tough stretch.
Yep.
the gauntlet.
Yep. You got to make it
The
through November.
gauntlet
You got to
has
make it
been
through
laid
November.
down.
Because this whole winning streak, you can get to 23 games. You lose one of those two, you're not going to win the division. You're not going to New Year's Six Bowl. It's over.
That's a play. Wow, that's crazy. Looking forward to that. All right, to wrap it up with the other schools, FIU comes from behind in the fourth quarter and beats Middle Tennessee, scoring 11 points to win 24-21. The quarterback, he threw for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. It was real good. But they only ran for 70. Morgan had a good game, but running the ball only 70 yards, giving up 187. That's not going to do good going forward. But kudos to them. This was like a coin flip game, and it was back and forth. And going into the fourth, they outscored them 11-0 and pulled out the victory. So good for them. They're playing pretty decent for FIU. They're playing pretty decent the last few games.
All right. Go Panthers. And looking forward to next week, how do you think they'll fare?
They host Rice, so it really shouldn't be a contest. Rice has 1 win on the season, so they're not good at playing football. So they are on looks like a 6-game losing streak maybe. So I think it's going to be another one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Understandable. Bush Davis has got a way to go before that program goes back to where they want it to be, but not a whole lot of expectations. You're a young program, so give them some entertainment value. That's all you need to do.
Yep.
All right. Well, very good. Real quickly, we're going to remind our fans of our Patreon account, patreon.com/FloridaFocusPodcast. We currently have 2 levels of contributions you can do to get back to the show. So we appreciate all the fans, and this is a way you can get back and make everything better. $1 a month gets you our thanks and gives you access to our private Facebook page. $5 a month gives you access to our secret episodes, which we upload. We upload our instant reactions. Plus, we'll give you a taste of what it's like before and after the show starts. So, and real quickly, I'll do this so that Chris and Jarad can give you the full Gator synopsis. The ways you can reach out to us are many, many, many. We have Instagram, we have Facebook, we have Twitter. But just the website will get you to all of them. FloridaFocusPodcast.libsyn.com. It's LIBSYN.com. You can find us every avenue through that. So thank you to the fans. We appreciate all of the interaction. And I'm going to throw it over to you guys, Jarad and Chris. I want you guys to take it from here. Tell me what you thought about the Gators so far this year. We're doing this because Florida State's obviously been off. I'll throw in a little bit of Florida State at the end. But tell me what you guys thought of the Vandy game. What do you think of the season so far and how the Gators look going forward?
All right. Before we get going, I just want to ask Jarad a question. And I know this, but I'd like the listeners to know this too. Jarad, you originally hail from Texas.
That's correct.
Canadian Texas. And yes, that's a real place. I've been there. Canadian Texas. How does someone who grew up in Canadian Texas become a diehard Gator fan? How does that happen?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of a crazy story. You can blame my parents, I guess. I'm from a football fanatic old family. My grandma watches the Cowboys games every Sunday. If they're playing on a Monday, she texts me everything that's going on. She knows all the players. To this day, she follows that team, live or die. So growing up, being a diehard Cowboys fan, they had one guy that really stood out to me playing Pee Wee football and flag football as a running back. So they had a guy named Emmitt Smith. And I idolized Emmitt Smith. There was no better football player, still to this day, in my opinion, than Emmitt Smith. I love the way he ran. I love his attitude, his interviews, everything about him. I was on board. And so I had posters, I had football cards, I had jerseys. Emmitt Smith. My room was a shrine to Emmitt Smith. And on the back of all of those posters and cards and all that stuff, it said College, Florida. I didn't know what college was. But I decided that if Emmitt Smith, if that's where he colleged, then that's where I should college too. That was the early 90s when he came on, 94-ish. So by that time, Spurrier had really gotten that program rolling, and they were on TV. You could flip on TV. You could catch, the 3:30 Florida game. That Florida State game is going to be on national televised television. So those 95 and 96 teams, man, they were easy to fall in love with. 97, and throughout. So really, when they're coming on and you're little and you see Albert the Alligator out there and you see that orange and blue and those fans are chomping and you're like, Emmitt Smith went here? Yeah, this is the place for me. So that's how it happened, man.
Nice. And because of that, we all meet and this happens. So that's awesome. That's good to hear. I'm always interested when people who aren't from Florida are Florida fans, or we even your buddy Brian was a Florida State fan,
big time Florida State fan,
middle of Texas. So I just always find it fascinating when we have people that aren't from that state fans of those schools. So thank you for sharing. So Jarad, this game, I'm going to give my thoughts, and I'm going to toss over your overall thoughts, and then we'll go down by each unit, and then at the end we'll maybe look at some areas of improvement, opportunities to improve. My initial thoughts were, this is on paper exactly how I thought it was going to happen. I thought Vanderbilt was going to give us 3 quarters. I thought we were going to win by less than maybe we should have. I thought maybe 14 points. Call it a game. Let's go home. Let's enjoy a bye week. But this is not how I thought that was going to happen, because it was crazy. Such a crazy game. I didn't think that we would be down by 18. I didn't think a full-out brawl was about to happen. I didn't think that we would need a fake punt to get things going. So the way it happened, I knew it was going to happen, but the way it happened kind of shocked me. But I'm happy. I'm excited, and I'm celebrating because 2 words: bowl eligible.
Bowl eligible.
I haven't been able to say that in a long time, so
right.
I'm celebrating. Every Gator should be celebrating. It was an ugly win, but it was a win, and we are now bowl eligible. So those are my thoughts. I'm turning it over to you.
I kind of look at it a little bit similar to you. It was an ugly win, but not for the same reasons. You look at a game, you went 31-17, but you amassed 576 yards of total offense. I mean, when's the last time we can say a Florida offense did it? 12-19, third down efficiency, 3 of 3 on fourth down. I think Felipe threw for 284. I know we rushed as a team for almost 300. It was like 292. You had 2 backs go over 100. Watching the game, it's really not that close of a contest. Now, where Vanderbilt was able to stay in the game and Vanderbilt was able to get momentum, is the 2 early turnovers. Franks' interception in the red zone that Vanderbilt turned into a 97-yard touchdown drive, and the ensuing fumble where we kicked it all the way down the field for them and gave it to them at the 30. So, Vanderbilt turns those into 2 early scores, and all of a sudden, I remember me and you were texting, and Vanderbilt scores the next one, and you texted "ball game?" ? And I replied, "I think so."
Yeah.
I don't see how you come back from basically three opportunities to put points on the board and get 0.
Yeah.
So I was impressed with their ability to fight through all the craziness that happened in the first half, come back, execute the game plan, and another victory for Dan Mullen and the Florida Gators. I don't want to throw it out there because I don't think these teams are anything alike, but their ability to find ways to win through adversity is a lot like Urban Meyer's 2006 team, in that really you're winning games that maybe you shouldn't.
Yeah.
You're finding ways to put points on the board when I don't know that we really should.
Right. Yeah. And I think that, going to your point, especially offensively, you're right. If you take away the score, you take away the almost brawl, our players getting ejected, you take all that away, and you just watch the film, we are dominating them. We are dominating them, especially on the offensive line and our running backs. And I think you see this coaching staff does kind of, again, I'm not comparing like you are. I'm not like you. Like, we're not comparing to 08. We're not comparing to Meyer. But it kind of has that feel like the coaches are like, hey, relax. Calm down. We are winning. We know what we're doing. And they did that the second half. And you kind of saw it, especially with that the fake. Well, I think they missed the field goal. When they missed the field goal and then we faked the punt, you kind of like, okay, we are relaxed and we are outplaying them. Why are we worrying?
Interesting thing. Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
go ahead. Go ahead.
The interesting thing on that, on the missed field goal, he misses from like 25 yards, but he turns around and makes a 42 and like a 50.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah, it was that. I think that was the swing. I mean, you can maybe even point to earlier, right before the half, getting that field goal. But finally, when they missed that field goal, finally something went our way,
mm-hmm.
and then we capitalized that with that fake, and then we kind of just took over, and it was weird. I'm like, why did I panic so much? I mean, I see it. I get it. With 18 points will cause you to panic, but if you actually watch the game. We were dominating them, and they were smart not to force the long pass. They knew we have two great running backs that are dominating, handed off, and like you said, 2 100-yard rushers. That's impressive. And this team knew this is the bread and butter on offense. And I know not the whole game, but especially the beginning and the second half. Not only our offensive line, but our receivers are blocking downfield on screen passes and those little outs to the receivers. Our receivers are really getting downfield and blocking and doing a great job, and tight ends as well. I remember one of the P-Ryan runs, Deontay Lewis is in front of him. He's just looking for a player to block, and he didn't know where to go. He just knew to go where P-Ryan was going, and he was looking for someone to block, and he made a block and got more yards for him. But I really liked what we were doing offensively and not really forcing the throws and not really panicking and letting our run game lead. And then you saw the pass to Jefferson. Then you saw the pass to Swain. So what are your thoughts on how we played offensively?
Offensively, man, I really don't have many complaints as far as the team's ability to execute. The turnovers are really what drive you crazy. The pass that Franks deflected off of the first interception he threw, the receiver wasn't open. If you go back and watch that film, yes, he gets deflected, but if that ball doesn't get deflected, it's probably still getting picked off. So, he forced it in there, and I didn't like that. And obviously, ball security, you got to preach ball security. Dameon Pierce's fumble late in the third or the fourth was awful. I mean, you got to be able to put two hands on that ball. But overall, the execution was great. You mentioned the wide receivers blocking. Trevon Grimes has found a way to be a weapon in the offense without necessarily getting a lot of targets. I mean, every big run, everything on the outside, he's out there. He's putting a hat on somebody and making a play. And another great thing is we're finally starting to see Kadarius Toney work his way into the game plan. Early on, a lot of fans were frustrated that he wasn't getting a lot of touches. I think there were some outside issues being factored into that. Look at his on the field stuff. He's starting stuff. He's always John, which is great. You want to have some swagger, but you got to be able to rein that in. You throw back to the old option reverse. You let Toney take it around, and that was great to see. So Mullen's bag of tricks hasn't really changed in 10 years. He's just found new ways to get it on the field. So I'm pretty happy with overall the execution. I think the defense has to be able to clean up those mistakes, though.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point because I remember during the game I texted you, "What is our defense doing?" And you responded with a perfect answer: nothing. Yeah. We weren't doing anything on defense, and it was very frustrating because our offense was handing the ball over to them, and this is usually where the defense picks us up, and they just weren't. They gave up that long 75-yard pass to the running back, and our safeties and corners did not look like they wanted to even mess around with him. They didn't really put the effort into it, and it's not like our defense.
Yeah, Reese blows the assignment. It's a little bit of a screen pass. Reese completely blows it, but then the DB on the outside, maybe it's McWilliams or whatever, he gets caught in the wash too. No one even pursued. So I think Henderson may have because he's always pursuing.
Right.
But and you have to also ask yourself, if Vandy's great running back doesn't go out of there, does that affect the game plan? I think it does.
Yeah, that's a good point. Good point.
And then but hats off to Vanderbilt. They played tough in a home game that wasn't a home game. 2/3 of the fans are Florida fans, and they fought and they brought. I mean, they punched them in the mouth, and Florida responded. Vanderbilt, is a team that's capable of playing good football. You lose to 7 at Notre Dame earlier in the year, but then the rest of their season has been pretty terrible. So, tough break, but I'm glad for the W.
Yeah, I'll take it. And I think again, defense didn't do their best. Offense got good in the second half, but another thing that's been consistent all year is our special teams. Swain had a couple of good returns. McPherson's knocking everything through. He's perfect on the year in my book. I know technically he missed one in Kentucky, but we all saw. He's booting everything through. Good punt coverage, and you see all right. Like I said earlier, that back to back, they miss a field goal, we have a fake punt that really sparks us. So it's that special team that's really that consistent thing, that through line through a whole season, and I really like that. And that is shades of Meyer. He really preached special teams, and just seeing that with Mullen as well.
Yeah, I love to see it. I hated to see the targeting penalty. It was a penalty. I mean, I don't want to sit here and be like, oh, we didn't do anything wrong. No, like, Pete, look, you cannot. Today's football, you can't put a shoulder in a player on a crackback. You can't do it. Yep. So, and honestly, it wasn't even necessary. Swain still probably returns that ball 25, 30 yards, even without that hit. So, it's give and take. But, yeah, I was happy. Special teams is going to be a strength of this team, and it's going to be how they're going to be successful for the remainder of the year, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to get your thoughts on this. So the Voshon Joseph ejection, he had a personal foul earlier in the game. I did not know this, and everyone I've talked to didn't know this as a rule. When both teams get the personal foul, everyone on the team gets a personal foul, and that's why he was ejected, and that's why he was upset. I don't think he even knew why he was getting kicked out.
I don't think he knew, and you saw on the sideline, you saw Coach Robinson, the linebacker coach, you saw him explaining to him, hey, you're gonna be able to sit the remainder of the contest. And I think when it hit him, that's when he starts to go after the whiteboard. Another strength coach, I think it was, I'm not positive which strength coach it was, but they wrap him up. They basically get him, start to get him out of the. I think Coach Savage, but they start to bring him out of the. Finally, you get him off the field because they wouldn't start play until he's gone.
That was wild. I didn't know that. Did you know that was the rule?
I did not until that game. And then I looked it up and I was like, oh, but it makes sense. When if you're going to clear your sideline in the middle of a contest, you probably, that probably is a penalty. So it makes sense to me.
Yeah, in that case, because they clearly went past half the field. A lot of our guys, if not all of our guys, were off the sideline. It just stinks for him because I didn't really see what he was doing in that skirmish, but say he didn't leave the sideline and now he's getting kicked out. That kind of stinks for him. But you could also make the argument, why do you body slam that guy earlier in the game and get your first one?
And I don't think he was. I think he wasn't. I don't think he was one of the players that were on the field.
Yeah, I didn't think it was either.
And really, that whole situation is just unfortunate. I mean, you don't want to see. You love to see the embrace after the game. Obviously, the SEC is not going to discipline Mullen or Mason. Yeah. And I think that's the right call. But in the heat of the moment, at the end of the day, it's a competitive sport. Yeah. And there's a lot on the line. So I don't necessarily mind that as much. You would like to see, Mullen did put his arm out. He's like, hey, let's all cool down. Right. I got it. And he turns around. Then he sees Mason John at Grantham. Yeah. And the craziness ensues. So, we weren't quite. I don't want to put another school down, but we weren't quite on the Miami FAU level. But you still don't want to see it.
Yeah, I'm glad that they were friends and they had some history, but it looked Mullen was ticked. Yeah, and I was, and then when you saw Vanderbilt's players coming over, I kind of got worried for a second there. I really did. But kudos to Mason for turning around, seeing his players, and he was like, nope, we're not doing this. You guys need to get back. Mm-hmm. Crazy stuff. But I'm like you said, I'm glad at the end of the game, cooler heads prevailed, and they realized it's just a ball game. Let's move on.
Right.
So we talked about it a little bit. What are some of the areas of concern or areas to improve on as we go forward?
Big area of concern to me as far as the season progresses, and especially into the coming up week, for Florida after the bye going to Georgia is the rush defense seems to be the weak point. Florida's been able to weather the storm of losing Marco Wilson on the boundary, which no one would thought. He's your only All-American caliber corner, quote unquote. He's the leader of the defense, definitely leader of the secondary, outside of Chauncey Gardner, of course. So you really a lot of question marks after that game one, but they've stepped up. Trey Dean has done an incredible job coming in, being versatile for the team. Now he gets some pass interference calls, but he's a freshman.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, the run defense to me has to get better. Conliffe and Slayton, the conditioning is not quite there on the interior of the line yet. You can see where they've made a lot of improvements and they've been able to stuff the run, but you need more consistency up there. Reese came back and gave a huge push to the middle of that defense. Maybe took a little bit of a step back in Vanderbilt, overran some plays, got too aggressive in some situations, played outside of his lane, and assignment. But, those are things that are able to clean up. But at the end of the day, what Florida is going to have an issue with is the depth of talent. After Reese, who steps up?
Yeah.
After Conliffe and Slayton, Schuler's been a great surprise, and thank goodness for him because he's even started the game. But you got to be able to keep your horses on the field. And I think that's going to be the biggest challenge for the Georgia game. And even as you get into the rest of the slate, South Carolina, they can run the ball.
Yeah.
Missouri is no slouch offensively. And as we've seen, even with Florida State, they have talented people to hand the ball off to. Cam Akers is the real deal. So can you sustain it for 4 quarters for the rest of the week? Because after this bye, it's back to the grind. So that's my concern.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. So Florida does have a bye, and then we play Georgia in Jacksonville. Georgia coming off that loss to LSU, who a lot of people thought that LSU had a shot, but not just dominating them. Didn't think they're going to dominate them. They get a bye as well. Going forward, I'll give you kind of some of my thoughts going forward with Georgia, and then I want to hear yours. I like, as a Florida fan, I like seeing Georgia lose, but I was kind of like, oh, great. I like them losing, but I don't like them losing. I like them losing because, it gives us confidence, hey, they bleed. The same Predator. If it bleeds, you can kill it. So we know that they bleed, but now they have 2 weeks being ticked off and looking for someone to take it out on. And we are coming off a game where we didn't look our best at all till the second half. And so I'm kind of like, I'm like you said, though, what really worries me is Swift. He's pretty – and Holyfield. Their running backs are really good.
Really good.
That's their strength. I think that's, if we had a weakness on defense, that would be one of them, is especially right up the middle. So I'm kind of worried about that. Fromm does not scare me too much, but if it's a play action situation, who knows what we're going to do. I think Georgia's defense a little bit overrated, which if Franks does not turn the ball over, I think it's going to be I think we might have some success on offense. And I think we're kind of almost like a stalemate a little bit on special teams, although they did have that blunder with that fake kick. But if they're not faking kicks, Blankenship's a really good kicker.
Yes.
Really good kicker. So that's just kind of my thoughts. What are your thoughts on the Georgia game going forward?
So, like you love to see the Dogs lose. Anytime you get a chance to see that is great. And you get, they've been pretty invincible for the past couple seasons. So, you want to see, hey, there's a chink in the armor. At the same time, though, I'm not one to get to read too much into this loss. I'm really not. You come into Death Valley from an LSU team who's reeling, who's got a lot to prove, who's very talented on defense, even more so on paper, much more talented than Florida as far as depth goes. Christian Fulton, brilliant young cornerback, going to be one of the best in the country. So you have a great LSU team who maybe the media takes a step back on because they lost in a all-world game in the Swamp. So they play Georgia, but you got to remember, this is the same Georgia team that beat South Carolina 41-17. It's the same Georgia team that beat Missouri 43-29. Same Georgia team that rolled Vandy. And, they roll into Death Valley, and they take an L. It wasn't a well-called game. It wasn't a well-played game. Georgia got away from the running game early, inexplicably, really. You make a really poor call on the 4th and 8 to fake a field goal. I don't really see any. It's at that point, it's 3-0. There's no reason to not take the points there. You're a better team. You're a deeper team. I know a lot of Georgia fans are down on Jake Fromm right now. He did throw the 2 picks. Didn't look great in the pocket, but I think you're afforded a bad game. I mean, I don't know that any quarterback has ever been, even Tebow had bad games. Yeah. Warfel had sort of subpar games. So I think you're allowed one of those. And I don't think you hit the panic button. A lot of Georgia fans are hitting the panic button. I don't think you hit the panic button, and they're going to come in off a bye and they're going to be ready to play in Jacksonville. So
everything's still ahead of them. Everything.
Yeah. A lot of people are talking about switching to Fields. I think that's if you're a Gator fan, maybe that's a good thing. You put in the guy with no experience. But I don't – if I'm looking at this game, I'm concerned. I think Georgia still has the ability to win it by 10 to 14 points.
Yeah. I think that I think we play better at this point when we aren't expected to win. I think we've done that with Mississippi State. We've done that with LSU. And once we got those wins and everyone's patted on the back, we go to Vandy and we're down 18. Yeah. So I think we're better when we have no shot. Now people are going to say that we have a shot.
We have a shot, yeah.
And that kind of scares me. That really does. And if you zoom out and you look at Georgia, not just this game, they're still a really scary team. They're a really team that they runner up and they have a lot to play for. They went out there in Atlanta, a chance to rematch with Alabama, and the playoffs everything's still ahead of them, and they have 2 weeks to lick their wounds to prepare. So I am kind of worried about our chances, and man, it stinks. I do like seeing them lose, and I'm like, now that they have, I don't like this. I don't like it at all. I don't like the spot we're in. I agree, man. 14 points. I don't think that's crazy to see.
I think you're gonna see a great chess match. For a lot of years, the Florida coach has been playing checkers. Dan Mullen, he's a chess player. He's a guy that scripts his drives. He's a guy that knows his X's and O's. And you're gonna see a great chess match early on in Jacksonville. Georgia has the depth to basically wear Florida out. But I think early on, I don't think this Florida team's going to start slow in Jacksonville. I think you're going to see a great chess match. You're going to see some great offensive and defensive minds going at it. Anytime you can do that, it should be a lot of fun to watch.
Right. And I think there are obviously ways to win. I like our special teams. And if we turn the ball, create turnovers, we're right there. We are right there. And I think our offense can do enough. But it's going to be all 3 phases have to work for us to go forward and get the victory.
Right.
I really think so. All right. So thank you for that. That was fun. Talking Gator to Gator. No offense, Brandon.
No, none taken.
So Jarad, I want to ask you, we'll wrap it up with Florida before we wrap the show. I want to ask you a question. At this point, we're halfway through the season, or roughly halfway through the season. Give me your grades on the Gators. Grade the offense, the defense, the special teams, and the coaching. And maybe later on, if those that are listening, they want to do specifics, quarterbacks, receivers, and so on, you can. But grade your team. And Brandon, this goes for you as well for Florida State. What would you grade your team? Right now, just for time's sake, we'll just do offense, defense, special teams, and coaching. So Jarad, what are your thoughts? Where do the Gators grade out right now?
I'm going to give the offense, I'm going to give them a lower grade, not because I don't think they're executing game plans and not because I don't think that they're playing well. I think they are, but I'm probably going to give them a C. I'm going to give them a C+. I'm not going to quite put them in the B territory just because some of the mistakes and the turnovers. Now, Franks has done a phenomenal job, and the running backs have done a phenomenal job. The depth still scares me. And I don't know that you're ready to roll it in. People are talking top 10 ranking. I don't think we're there yet. So I'll probably give them a C+. Defense, and a lot of people are going to think I'm crazy for that. And that's okay, because it'll be fun in the comment section for me to defend that point.
Yeah.
But The defense, I give him a B plus, and some people might have that flip, but you got a guy, Ja'Kai Polite, who's a 3-star guy. He's gonna be a first dayer. He's gonna be a first rounder. So he's gonna be that defense is very talented. Grantham has been playing really well. I'm gonna give him a B plus. Anytime you can go into Death Valley, Mississippi State, and just take over a game, I give it up. The young guys have stepped up. Donovan Steiner, who nobody thought anything of, fellow Texan. So go Gators on that one. And special teams, man, A plus. Yeah, how can you not? I don't care what the NCAA rulebook says. In my opinion, McPherson's never missed a kick.
Yep.
So
Same
I'm going to
here.
give him a perfect score on that. And you gotta love Freddie Swain, who's a diamond in the rough. Great return man. Really big find on the and give it up for Townsend.
Yep.
So. And outside of the fake, just his ability to flip the field. If you go back and watch him in the LSU game, he is booming kicks. After the penalty, you screwed all the way back. He's like, it's cool, man. I'll put it on the 10-yard line. No problem.
Yeah.
So, I mean, give it up. Give it up for Gator special teams. I'll give him an A+. So, offense, C+, defense, B+, and special teams, A+.
Okay. What do you think about the coaching?
I'm going to give him a solid A.
Okay.
A solid A. I was fully on the Dan Mullen train when he was hired. You were not, so I just want to put that on paper.
Yeah, I am glad. I'm very happy. I'll be the first to say that I was wrong on that one. Like
I was the conductor of that. I still am. I love him. Another point I want to bring up real quick is that I was going back and listening to your show specifically so I could get your thoughts on Todd Grantham. You were not happy. I think he's a brilliant defensive mind, and I love him. So, I'm gonna say you're 0-2.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna say that I'm 2-0. So
I was a bit of a Debbie Downer. I will admit it, and I'm happy to admit it.
The reason that the Florida coaches don't get an A+ is because of recruiting, and I think that anytime you're a college football coach, you have to be able to be an elite level recruiter. The Florida Gators have done enough on the field to merit a better class than they have right now. And I think you'll see it in the offseason. You did have a lot of damage control to do. You have a lot of relationships that you have to form, but they're not there yet. You look at teams that are struggling, but still being able to reel in some talent. So that would be my only knock on the Florida staff, is that you'd like to see a little more consistency. As Dan Mullen likes to talk about on the field, you like to see a little more consistency out on the road, pulling in some top talent to Gainesville. So my only knock, and I don't think it's that big of a deal right now, year one. So that's why they get an A, not an A+.
Okay, I tend to agree with most of yours. I would I'd probably be the B- on offense just because our running game, with Malik Davis going down, still they're doing enough, and that's what I want. I just want enough from them, and that's what they're doing. And Frank's, he's doing pretty good. He's not gonna go out and win you some Heisman's or anything, but he's doing pretty good. So I might bump them up to a B-, but defense B+. I totally agree. How could you not go special teams A+? And like you said, Townsend not getting as much love as he should. But also, how about Cleveland?
Oh man,
he was supposed to. I thought he was going to be the star receiver, but instead he's your star gunner. Doing fantastic in finding his role, finding his niche, and excelling at that, and just being selfless and being a leader through special teams, which is pretty cool. And A for the coaching staff. And I wasn't like anti-Mullen. Might have been anti-Grantham, but I wasn't anti-Mullen. I was just like, I don't know. I think we could do better. Maybe I got too starry-eyed and saw names like Frost and Kelly, who I don't know if they've won a game yet.
UCLA finally did win this week, so
they did. Okay, good for them. But I was just kind of like, I thought maybe we were settling with Mullen. I'm starting to see that I might be wrong, and I'm totally fine. I'm smiling from ear to ear, saying I was wrong about him. So it's a good point with recruiting. You'd think it would be a little bit better, especially with the early success that we have had. I do but the Debbie Downer is going to come out here. Still not jumping fully on the train. I'm on the train, but kind of like, like with a skateboard that one foot's kicking, like the hoverboard.
And Back to the Future, I got you.
Yes, thank you. Because we saw Muschamp year 2, we're in the Sugar Bowl. What happened year 3? No bowl.
Yeah.
McElwain, year 1 and 2, we're in SEC championship game. Year 3, no bowl. So I'm not, they've hurt me. They've hurt me. They really have. And so I'm not like fully in. But how is Mullen different than those two, Jarad?
Well, I mean,
pull me on the train. Pull me on the train.
So you watch the Florida Gators. You watch them week in and week out. You watch them game in and game out. And there's no way that you can go back and watch that Muschamp team that was very successful. I think it was 2015, and even the McElwain first 2 years. And there is no way on earth that you can sell me that those teams performed and executed at the level that Dan Mullen's team was, and they were more talented. Muschamp's team has a plethora of NFL players right now. Brian Poole, Keanu Neal.
That defense was nasty.
And so, I mean, you got guys that are playing ball, but Roper, I think, may have been the coordinator that year. I don't remember. There was a bunch of them.
It was a revolving door. Yeah.
Penalty after penalty after penalty. You may win a game 10-3. No consistency. The third down percentage alone, the third down conversion percentage alone by Mullen blows them out of the water. And he's doing it with a guy in Felipe Franks, who everyone jumped off board on. And Mullen's found a way to put him in positions to be successful. And that's what you're going to get. That's going to be different than McElwain. Will Grier can go anywhere and be a Heisman contender because he's a very talented player. You're seeing what he's been able to do at West Virginia. Now, he had a bad game last week, but you see the body of work. Treon Harris was never going to win you an SEC championship.
Yep.
That was not going to happen. So, I mean, just the game plan, the way the Gators are running the ball, the way they're moving the ball, the way that when you cringed for the past 3 or 4 years, I did. If the Gators are on offense, you're like, oh goodness, what am I about? What sort of nonsense am I about to watch? How are we going to turn the ball over now? How fast can we go 3 and out? I got my stopwatch right here.
Yeah,
let's go ahead and set a new record. You're not watching those games with Mullen. Even in tough games in Georgia or your LSU's and your Mississippi States, you're moving the ball. You're putting yourself in position to win. So, if you're not on the Dan Mullen train, I don't know what to tell you. I can send you a ticket to get on.
We'll pick
you up in Atlanta.
Do you guys hear that? You hear that? Woo woo, woo woo. I ran to the front and started pulling the chain.
You're there. He's there.
I'm on.
How do you? Sorry, go ahead.
I ran right past you. You didn't see me.
Yeah,
a ninja. Ran right past you.
If you're
you sold me. You sold me, man.
If you're not on board when he comes off the plane, Gator chomping, wearing national championship rings with Gator logos on them, I don't know what to tell you.
Well, is there still room on the train for me?
Yeah, I'll make a spot for
you. Okay, good. I'll take the back of it if I need to. It's fine. I'm in. You've done it. You've done it.
Nice.
I'm in. All right.
Yeah.
So, Jarad, thank you so much for your input and your take on the Gators and really insightful stuff. And I know two things are going to happen when I talk to Jarad. One, he's going to challenge me. He's going to challenge me, but he's going to, and two, he's going to be honest with me, and that's what I appreciate about you, Jarad. Sure. So thank you for joining us. Brandon, we'll kick it back to you. I don't know if we have time to maybe give you your grade for Florida State, or if we want to just save that for social media and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'll throw it out there real quick, and I can go into more detail later on. But to finish some of Jared's thoughts and yours as well, I think this game, more than any of the others for the Gators this season, defines why there's been such a shift. From the outside looking in, the last 5 seasons, you wouldn't trust the Gators to come back and win a game like this. Against an inferior team, you're on the ropes, and you see something very different here. Even a game that could have gone very disastrous after a near fight, you see them come back and win by 10. So that to me says there's a paradigm shift going on. The coaching staff has really made a swing. But real quickly, and I'll elaborate on these later on, but I think for Florida State, the biggest strength would be 2 areas. That would be coaching. I really like everything that's going on, so I'll give them an A-. Recruiting has been fantastic. With the Gators, Taggart was able to come in really late after Jimbo just kind of gave up on recruiting for the last 3 months of his tenure, and was able to almost get some guys to come to Florida State that were committed to Florida for a while. So that's a good sign. He recruited like 7 guys to move from the state of Florida up to Oregon when he was a coach there. He's clearly got top 5, top 10 potential recruiting power, which is good. That's nice. The only other thing I can really say would even teeter on an A would be defensive line. But if you put defense as a whole, you got to give it a B- or C+ because our linebackers and secondary have been so bad. We've given up so much on that side of the ball. Obviously, without Brian Burns, who is going to be maybe a top 15 draft pick, and he's second in the nation in tackles for loss, then this defense just is pretty bad. And Marvin Wilson's coming into his own. So defensive line is great. I appreciate the compliment, Jarad, about Cam Akers, and you're right, he can be explosive, but this year he hasn't been. And he's on less than 500 yards on the season and 1 rushing touchdown. We compared last week that Cronkite had more rushing yards almost in one game than Cam Akers had the entire year at this point. And so I'm a little jealous to look at the Gators, who have an offensive line like you do, and you have 2 guys going for 100 yards a game, and we can't get that sometimes in 2-3 games at a time. So it's pretty tough to see that. The passing game's come along. So I guess offense gets well, if you count the rushing attack, it's a C-. Our offense is so bad. It's one of the worst in the nation. It's almost hard to watch. So there's a short answer to that. It sounded long, but it wasn't.
No, it was good. It was very good. All right, man. Thank you.
Of course. So, yeah, it was a lot of fun. Jarad, thank you so much for coming on, man. We really appreciate the insight, and you've certainly been active on social media, which we really appreciate the most. But you've been our key fan from day one, so that means more than anything else.
Oh, man, it's an honor. You guys are doing a great job. I look forward to listening to the show every week, the recaps, the insights. So just keep more coming. I love it.
We'll do. Real quickly, Florida State goes back home, plays Wake Forest next week. The evil preachers come to town. Wake Forest is averaging 450 yards a game. Pretty good. Florida State about 340. Not so good. They're also coming off of a bye, but their week before that they played Clemson and lost pretty badly. Our pass defense, that's the biggest thing I see we need to turn around here. You figure if your secondary is decent, about 1 out of 4 pass breakups turn into interception, and you're going to get maybe 3 to 4 INTs that turn into touchdowns every year. So far we've only had 1, which is about average. Florida State averaging bottom 10 in rushing attack. That's kind of gotten a little better since the Miami game. Stats were slightly improved, but you got to get some improvement there, obviously. Special teams. By the way, we didn't really talk about how I have a soft spot for punters, I guess. Yeah, your punter started, quite a scene there, and then that's how Florida State's incident with Miami occurred as well. Our kicker / punter made a tackle right before halftime with the Miami game, and he accidentally grabbed the face mask. So another close penalty like Florida Vandy, and then all of a sudden the bench is just cleared. So look at the kicker is getting a little aggressive.
That's it was. I don't know what, Jarad, you can help me out with this. What SEC championship game it was with Shane Edge? You know where I'm going.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What do you know? What year it was?
I would be guessing, but I think it was 94.
Okay, I was thinking 3. So 94 and 93. We were in an SEC championship game, and our punter, Shane Edge, we're losing Alabama, and he calls his own number. This did not come from Spurrier. He calls his own number, grabs the ball, and he runs for a first down. And after the game, he was quoted saying, "Sometimes the punter just has to take over the game." Yeah, Shane and Chris Berman. Shane, don't push me over the edge.
Thank you, Berman.
So
that's a good
one. So that was one of my favorite punter moments of all time. Yeah, sometimes they just have to take over the game, and I agree.
Oh, indeed. Yeah. So it's been interesting to see all of that. I don't know if I graded the special teams for Florida State, but I got to give them a C because our kicker is 6 of 10. You're supposed to be one of the best in the nation, and you missed 2 against Vatech. Which, by the way, this is another reason coaching gets a high grade is because the Vatech game was almost perfectly called, and we didn't execute any of it. So missed kicks. We had a long run by Cam Akers that didn't turn in any points at all, even though we had first and goal. Kicker misses against Stanford, and then, of course, he misses one against Miami. It's just our destiny. And that the special teams unit doesn't look – our punter is better than average, but then he'll have 4 great punts and then one really bad one. And, it is what it is. It's a struggle. You were talking about bowl eligibility. Still a prayer that Florida State gets there, although I see some signs of flashes and some hope. If we lose to Wake Forest or Boston College, it's over. Okay. I'm still figuring Clemson, NC State, Notre Dame's a 3-game loss stretch right there. Notre Dame looks a little different because you saw that Book is not perfect, and Pitt's not very good, but also Pitt's 1 game back of the Coastal lead, so clearly they're going to win the Coastal Division. They're going to sneak in and beat Clemson and be the ACC champions. The way the ACC goes these years, that could very much happen. So,
okay.
So, all right. Well, thank you to the fans for listening. Of course, again, thank you, Jarad. We've talked about how you guys can get in touch with us. However you listen to us, we appreciate it. 5-star rating on iTunes would be very helpful. Please send us your feedback. Chris, what were some questions we wanted to have them address? We wanted them to grade the coaching and the special teams, offense and defense, right?
Yeah, and if they feel so inclined to break it down even more, they can.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
And if you want to tell us your favorite punter story, go right ahead.
Yes. We love a good punter story, that's for sure.
All right. Well, thank you so much to the fans. This is Brandon saying go Noles, Jarrett.
Go Gators.
And Chris.
Go Gators.